The earliest known civilization in the historical region of southern Mesopotamia, also known as South Central Iraq, emerged during the Chalcolithic and Early Bronze Age. It is also one of the cradle of civilization, meaning a civilization free of reliance of other civilizations. And we're going to talk about them. Hi, my name is Jessa. Let's look at the top 10 things you never knew about ancient Sumerians. Number 10. Economy and agriculture. The ancient Sumerians had an economy primarily based on agriculture, and with the Tigris and Euphrates rivers providing essential resources for cultivation, Sumerians were also among the first to develop advanced irrigation systems. They constructed canals and dikes in order to control the flow of water from the Tigris and Euphrates rivers, allowing them to cultivate crops in the fertile soil of Mesopotamia. This innovation greatly increased agriculture productivity, and Sumerians engaged in trade both with Mesopotamia and with regions farther afield. Cities like Ur became major trade hubs, facilitating the exchange of goods such as textiles, metals, grains, and pottery. Trade routes connected Sumer and other ancient civilizations, including the Indus Valley. Farmers engaged in planting, harvesting, and maintaining the irrigation systems, and in addition to free citizens, there were also laborers and slaves who contributed to the agriculture workforce. Number 9. Religion. When it came to religion in this region at this time, the ancient Sumerians believed in an anthropomorphic polytheism, or many gods in human form. Each were specific to the regions and the city-state that they were from, and the core pantheon include An, who represented heaven, Enki, who was the healer and friend to humans, Anana, representing the love of war, Utu, the sun god, and Sin, the moon god. They also had an entity that opted in spells named Enlil, who ensured spell spirits to obey. An is considered one of the oldest gods in early human deity history. Number 8. Education. Most education took place in a temple associated with a priest. Education for wealthy families studied and worked from the sun up to the sun down. Sumerians only focused on studying complex grammar and practicing writing. Most, if not all, Sumerian students were male. The greater part of the students came from more of a wealthy families, as the poor could hardly afford the cost and the time, which prolonged education demand. Sumerians created the first known formal education system, and the teachers, or priests, sometimes both, were called umia, which was also called experts. Educations was the first established for the purpose of training scribes and the person who writes the books or documentations by hand as a profession and helps keep track of the records. This was very necessary to satisfy the economic and administrative needs of the land, primarily of course those who are of the temple and the palace. This continued to be the major aim of the Sumerian school throughout its existence. However, in the course of its growth and development, it came to be the center of culture and learning in Sumer. Number 7. Writing system. Speaking of education, let's dive into the writing system. Cuneiform is a script characterized by wedge-shaped marks made on clay tablets. The term cuneiform is derived from the Latin word cunus, which is wedge, and forma, which is shape. Sumerian cuneiform is one of the earliest examples of this script. Sumerians primarily wrote on clay tablets using stylus made of reed, and the tablets were then baked or dried to preserve the inscriptions. The use of clay as a writing surfaces was abundant in the region and contributing to a widespread use of cuneiform. While the clay tablets were the most common writing surface, Sumerians also used other materials such as stone, metal for inscriptions. However, these materials were less common than clay. As Sumerians interacted with neighboring cultures, cuneiform was adapted for writing in multiple languages, and so they also became bilingual. Sumerian cuneiform was also used to write in Sumerian, but also employed to write with Akkadian, and a Semitic language spoken in the region, which led to, of course, as I mentioned, bilingual texts. Number 6. Inventions. From the writing invention as we know now as cuneiform, they also invented the wheel, a groundbreaking development that had profound impact on transportation and technology. The wheel was initially used in the creation of pottery, but later found applications in carts and wheeled vehicles, as well as irrigation systems, urban planning, early calendar systems, and mathematics. Sumerians engaged in complex mathematical calculations for tasks like surveying land and conducting trade. They also built boats and ships that could navigate the rivers and the Persian Gulf, facilitating commerce and cultural exchange. Number 5. Law codes. The Sumerians who inhabited the region of ancient Mesopotamia are credited with some of the earliest known legal codes in human history. These legal codes were written on clay tablets and steels, providing an insight into the legal and social structure of Sumerian society. The Code of Ur-Nammu is one of the earliest known legal codes and is attributed to Ur-Nammu, the king of Ur during the 3rd dynasty of Ur. It predates the more well-known Code of Hammurabi. The code is inscribed on a stele and covers various aspects of law, including family matters, properties, and crime. Notably, it emphasizes a restitution rather than severe punishments for offenses. Other codes and laws passed along and continued on the Sumerian societal system, as they also had contracts, families, and criminal law systems in place. The law was for sure an influence with religious beliefs and even invoked names of gods during trials. Violating legal oaths was considered a serious offense against the gods. Number 4. Architecture. Developed in the ancient regions of Mesopotamia, Sumerian architecture was characterized by its innovative use of materials such as mud bricks and its emphasis on monumental structures. Sumerian city-states include Urk, Ur, and Lagash, featuring impressive temples, ziggurats, city walls, and residential residential structures. Due to the lack of natural stone in the region, Sumerians extensively used mud bricks for construction. These bricks were made from a mixture of mud, clay, and sometimes chopped straw. Although less durable than stone, mud bricks were abundant and effective in the construction of various structures. Sumerian city-states were surrounded by defensive walls constructed with mud bricks. These walls served to protect the city from external threats such as invasions and floods, as well as with the temples that were made dedicated to the worship of deities that were significant architectural achievements. They also had urban planning, both around palaces and residential housings. Cities were organized with streets laid out with a grid pattern, and public spaces were designated for various activities. The city of Uruk in particular is known for its well-organized layout. Number 3. War. Sumerian city-states, each with its own ruler and patron deity, engaged in territorial disputes, struggles for dominance, and conflicts with external powers. One of the earliest records conflicts in Sumerian history is the conflict between the city-states of Lagash and Umma. The Still of the Vultures, a carved stone monument, depicts scenes of the war. The conflict involved disputes over territory and water rights. The ruler of Lagash, Inatum, is credited with victory, and the stele commemorates his achievements. Soldiers in the ancient Mesopotamian militaries are well trained and well equipped. Archaeological studies show that Sumerians used war carts and iron or bronze weapons, as most soldiers used axes, daggers, and spears. Units with spears would be organized into close order formations. Number 2. Social classes. Sumerian civilizations featured a social class hierarchical system with ruling class, upper class, middle class, working class, and enslaved class. The ruling class of Sumer included the king and the high priest. The larger social classes were the working class, which mainly comprised of farmers. At the top of the social hierarchy were the priests and the rulers. The priests were often serving specific deities, held significant religious authority. Below the priests and the rulers were the elite class and high-ranking officials. This group usually included aristocrats, wealthy landowners, landlords, and individuals with privileged access to resources. The middle class then would include merchants and artisans who engaged in trade, commerce, and craftsmanship. The majority of the population in Sumer, however, belonged to the lower social classes, primarily consisting of farmers and laborers. And at least, at the bottom of the social hierarchy were the slaves. Slavery was a very common institution in Sumer, and slaves were individuals who were often captured in warfare or just born into slavery. And finally, number 1, myths, or mythology. In relation to the religion classes and tales told of the gods and goddesses, it includes a lot of storytelling that these myths shaped and influenced the Mesopotamian people. If you've seen the Marvel movie Eternals, they had a South Korean arm wrestler and amazing actor Don Lee play the legendary Gilgamesh. The Epic of Gilgamesh was also best known out of all ancient Mesopotamian heroes. Numerous tales in the Akkadian language have been told about Gilgamesh, and the whole collection had been described as an odyssey of a king who did not want to die. Most scholars agree that the Epic of Gilgamesh exerted substantial influence on the Iliad and the Odyssey, 2 epic poems written in ancient Greek during the 8th century BC. Well, that's all for today, and thank you for joining me. My name is Jessa. Be sure to like and subscribe, have a good day, and learn new stuff. See you around!